Hello, and welcome to American Heron Wargaming. This is a battle report for Warhammer The Old World. In this game, I was using my Expeditionary Force Tropter list, which I've used a few times. It's led by an engineer with a handgun with the runes of accuracy and rapid fire, plus a rune of luck. I have two engineer sappers with handguns. One with the rune of rapid fire and accuracy, again, plus enchanted to keep it unique. The other one has the stupidity gun, with the runes of rapid fire and concussive force. I also have a runesmith with two runes of spell breaking, and then a big heavy Thane BSB with a rune of shielding and passage, swiftness and might, plus the banner itself having the rune of Stromny Redbeard for extra combat resolution. In my core I have a beer cart, 17 shielded warriors with full command, 14 expeditionary thunderers, 13 rangers, and 2 scout gyrocopters. There's another scout gyrocopter in special, along with 3 cannons and 5 miners, with a prospector with a steam drill. I was playing against Beastmen in this game, and I don't have my opponent's full list, but it had one big block of gores with a combat character, several casters with Wild Tide, a couple of chariots, some dragon ogres, some ambushing gores, and some harpies. We got the board set up and deployed. I'd put my big combat brick in the center, with the rangers holding the flank to protect the war machines. The right flank had one cannon and a single gyrocopter, and the thunderers were standing in front of a linear obstacle protecting the baggage train. We weren't using any secondary objectives besides the baggage trains. I got the first turn, which was pretty simple. Push up the gyrocopters and try to deal with the harpies and the chariots as best they could. After a whole round of shooting with the cannons, I'd managed to get some wounds, represented by rubber bands here, on the dragon ogres, but not as many as I'd hoped for. In my opponent's turn, the chariots were unleashed. Fortunately, I was able to fire and flee away with the gyrocopters. The rest of the army pushed up with thundering hooves. My second turn was fairly uneventful, since my opponent had a magical item that prevents all war machines from firing and everything else firing at half range. So there was some pitter-pattering and plinked wounds, but the serious damage dealers were kept in the corner. When it came time to fire and flee again, my gyrocopters ended up hopping over my cannons and back into cover. The rangers had 2 combats going into them, but they had managed some damage on the stand and shoot reaction. The other cannon was not so lucky. Somehow, the rangers managed to annihilate the chariot and the chaos spawn. Then my right flank had been totally wiped out, and the dragon ogres were preparing to crash through into my thunderers. My main infantry block was also waiting patiently, hoping that a long failed charge would give them the opportunity to catch the beastmen out. In my turn, the thunderers put out a last-ditch effort and managed to kill one of the dragon ogres. The gyrocopters abandoned the war machines and tried to get to work thinning the gore herd before they arrived, with some success. But it was not going to be a good next turn for the thunderers. And the combat brick got hit as well with 3 combat characters and still most of a block of gores. The Thunderers managed to get some damage in on the stand and shoot, despite us later realizing that they shouldn't have been able to since the charge was too close. The only one who managed to survive that charge was the musician, who was tooting as he fled. Things did not go well for the combat block either. Both the runesmith and the BSB Thane were sniped out, and 7 more other dwarves fell. The remaining ones broke and tried to flee, but were quickly cut down by the chariots. And it was at that point that we called the game. With 1 engineer, 2 scout gyrocopters, and 1 block of rangers, it seemed like it was going to be a long slog to a predetermined conclusion. So my opponent and I shook hands and wrapped up. I've gotten enough games under my belt with this list that I'm starting to understand what it's good and not so good at, as well as which tweaks I might need to make. The main limiting factor, though, is just how many models I have ready in my collection at the moment, so I may need to go all the way back to the drawing board to come up with something better. I like the scout gyrocopters, but I only have 3 of them, so I can't do the gyro spam list idea. And at this point, I've also maxed out on my Thunderers models, though a remedy for that is in the works, so we'll have to see. That's it for now, but keep your axe handy.